Well, good morning, everyone. First thing I want to start off with today is kind of our first full day of summer is some satellite data. And what we've got here over the southeast, this is not yesterday's satellite imagery. This is the same low that continues to sit and spin in this area, kind of cut off from the main flow. But I want to take you back to yesterday to show you how the severe weather played out along the plains. We had numerous extremely large storms that ran right through here from Wyoming, through Colorado, down into the panhandles, and eventually into southern and southeastern Texas. And the storms that ripped through this particular area produced some just major headlines. We had a storm that was right out here outside of Denver that produced, actually, I think at one point I saw 3 separate circulations within this storm. And then also some of these storms last night produced some incredibly large hail that actually injured quite a few people. The further down the line you go, we actually watched a severe thunderstorm here. I'll show you in a few moments again that went over a town called Matador, Texas. And I think as of this morning, I've heard of 4 fatalities from that storm. But we can just keep following them all the way down to the Gulf Coast. These huge, absolutely massive thunderstorms just feeding on the extreme heat that's in Texas right now, and the flow that's kind of pushing itself back up against the Rocky Mountains and the easterly flow that's coming across much of the Midwest here. So I just got a new image in. And again, as the sun is rising this morning, we're going to watch this storm system continue to put rainfall down as we kind of head up the East Coast here. So to go from there, I want to show you the storm reports from last night. Let's blow this up so you can see a little better. There we go. 14 reports of tornadoes. Again, I think 2 or 3 of them from the same supercell right in through here. And then this was the tornado right last night that had the fatalities in it in Matador, Texas. So this was a rough night in terms of severe weather. When we look at the hail from some of these storms, this is just the last 3 days of maximum estimated hail size. Again, we're hitting those same areas that have been hit for the last about 15 days with hail, including, again, this stripe right in through here. And I wanted to bring something up that I mentioned earlier in the year, and it was about how we count hail. So the current criteria is the hail must be larger than 1 inch in diameter to be considered severe. That doesn't mean that smaller hail can't do damage. It's just that's what the National Weather Service's criteria is. We talked about how there was this cluster and these dotted lines here that are well above the climatological average, which is the thick black line. But we noted that that was all a part of a time period when we used a 3/4 inch diameter threshold for hail size to be considered severe. So when you look at all of the years where we've now used the 1 inch, this is by far ahead of most of those years. So incredibly busy year in terms of severe weather. I did want to show you that supercell that went through Texas. So here you're on the panhandle, and we're going to watch just to the east of Lubbock. So let me take you back and just play this forward. There's a boundary. Can you see the boundary in through here? This is that anomalously easterly flow coming in, and this is where the air is being forced to rise first, and the storms blow up on that boundary. So this is downdraft air. The updraft air is all right in through here, okay? So this is the storm as it fed along south. That boundary then moves off. It continues to get pushed out by the outflow of these storms, so you can really see the outflow right in through here. But it's an interesting orientation of a supercell, and it just shows you the odd, compared to normal wind shear vectors for this particular time of year. And that storm cell continued to push south, and this was the one last night that was that produced fatalities here in Matador. So I wanted to show it to you and show you what it looked like. Elsewhere, more satellite data. I have to show you the tropics. The storms I just shared with you, I expect to see those in early May. I know we're almost at the end of June. And then you come over here and look at the Atlantic, and I'm like, wow, is it August or September? Because we have got 1, 2, 3 different areas that we're actively watching that are just racing off here in the main, what we call the main development region. Now, ahead of each of these is an unfavorable environment. There's a lot of wind shear that is in place in both the Gulf of Mexico, the Western Atlantic, and in the Caribbean. And this one's named Brett, and the newest one that's following it here, right in through here, this is Tropical Depression 4, could be named Cindy. I believe that's the next name on the list. So as of the 4:55 a.m. update, Brett is a tropical storm with max sustained winds at 70 miles an hour, so that's just a shade under hurricane strength. And the current forecast graphics suggest from the National Hurricane Center that this will remain a tropical storm as it goes over the Lesser Antilles and likely meet a demise somewhere in through this area. What we'll watch for, though, is any remnants of Brett to just become an area of tropical convection in this region. And we just keep an eye down here all summer and fall long for systems that could eventually just kind of pop their way up toward the Yucatan and maybe get into the Gulf of Mexico. I don't think Brett is going to do that right now, but there's still a thought there. Tropical Depression 4, we expect it to, looks like, stay as a tropical storm. We'll just monitor this, but move north of the Lesser Antilles and get up here, somewhere south of Bermuda. But again, not expected to really continue to go. Overall, the storm tracks, just to show you what this is going, notice this is coming up, and where is it heading? To Bermuda. So the reason why it can get there is because that Bermuda high is way up here and not in Bermuda. If it was over Bermuda, we'd be talking about Tropical Depression 4 doing something like this. Same thing with Brett. So this is just the pattern we're currently sitting in right now. Now from here, let's go to this. I wanted to show you one more satellite image. This is this morning as the sun was rising, but I want to take you before sunrise and show you the infrared data, because we're looking for these black dots. This is where we see right in through here the fires. That's a heat signature from the fire. And yesterday we can see more smoke coming from parts of Quebec with some of these large fire complexes, large fires that are in this area. And this is what continues to push smoke into that saddle point I keep referring, into the midsection of the country. There's one thing different, though, about the trajectory of this smoke, and because of where the jet stream currently is, we're pushing some of that out to the open Atlantic. And before, a lot of this was getting dragged south as a big ridge sat here, but that's not the case. But you do notice the air quality issues that are still in parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes states, right in through here, where we have the smoke from those wildfires, just stuck, it's stagnant, it's not moving anywhere. Then we have the very, very large ridge that's over Mexico and Texas. We're I don't know how many days into this heat wave in Mexico and Texas, but it has been substantial, very hot overnight lows in the 80s, the daytime highs peaking somewhere around 110 to 115. And this large ridge that's in this particular area is going to continue to be problematic, and you can see the air quality issues down here as well. Okay, let's come back to the severe weather, because today we're going to once again watch that same corridor for the risk of severe storms. This will continue into tomorrow as we watch this short wave try to eject this weekend into the Dakotas. And then as we get out there to the day on the 24th, we will watch western Iowa all the way down here to Missouri. Now, what's interesting about this next system, again, it's going to roll right into this area, is we will be watching for severe weather into this region capable of producing very heavy rainfall, locally, very heavy rainfall. But as you've noted, as I've been presenting, there have been places in Iowa and in Missouri that have, not everywhere, but have gotten some recent rains. It's almost just to the east of that particular area, right in through here, that's kind of been missed. And that's just a general circle. I'm not trying to draw that exactly. And that's not to say there aren't very dry spots elsewhere in the Corn Belt, but I want you to watch something here. From the 24th to the 25th, you'll now see that the new forecast for day 4 is for the severe weather to make it to this area, 15% probability getting there. And what happens in between is all about timing. The fact that this comes over in the overnight hours to early morning and then reignites here the next day. It's kind of like my colleagues and I, Andrew Pritchard, Matt Reardon, we call this kind of a diurnal leapfrog. And it's going to miss some of these areas that are absolutely critical. So let's go see what it is. Well, as this resets, the wave we're watching is this one right here. Now, overall, it's a part of a broader trough with the jet. And there you can see it moving that smoke out to the Atlantic. But we have this deep trough. There's the massive ridge that's been plaguing Texas and the parts of the Southwest, and then, of course, Mexico. And here's the cutoff low that's tucked underneath all of it. Here's our tropical systems, 1 and 2 right over there. But we're going to watch this short wave sneak around and get just thrown right here into this section of the country. Now, I'd like to show you that. I go into a vorticity map. So it's this guy right here that we're going to keep an eye on. It slides around the base of the trough here. By the time we get to Thursday night, here's our low just sitting and spinning over the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley. This gets really well organized by Friday afternoon and evening. And then by Saturday, that's where it is. All right. Now that trough that you see right here on Saturday afternoon is what's going to initiate the severe weather we're going to keep an eye on right in through this corridor. So it's going to be day 1, day 2, day 3 right here. And then we're going to see that move right over the state of Wisconsin through Sunday evening. Now the issue here was that the main lift on this system on Sunday will be out in this region. So it was here on Saturday, missed this area because of the timing of the day, and then on Sunday shows up right in through here. And then we just see kind of what we've been seeing. That low just curls up into a deeper trough. The ridge expands. The heat comes with it. But notice this pattern sends another shortwave here by next Tuesday. And where does it go? The same spot by next Thursday. And it just sits here. I mean, it's almost like a copy, but just 5 days later, going right over Wisconsin again on the 30th. But we will have trouble using these troughs to develop storms in this area because of a couple things. If you have a trough that's to the east of it, there's no moisture return coming back into this area. And that's what's been problematic with every single one of these things. So what I want to show you next is the all hazards weather map. We still have a frost advisory out for kind of the northern side of the Snake River Valley on its eastern edge. Yesterday, I was able to see some surface obs in this area that got down to 35 and 36 Fahrenheit early in the morning. I'm yet to do the full analysis to see if there was a frost here. Flooding in several areas, and then we can see the air quality issues here in the Midwest. Heat down south, that's what we've got going on. So I want to take you to the high-res models. We're going to start this off at 7 a.m. You're going to see those main components. So watch the system come out here. Watch the storms ahead of it blow up on the mountains, and then here's our upper level low sitting and slowly spinning. So this is through the middle of the day on Thursday, getting into Thursday evening, and by 10 o'clock, almost to midnight, rain could be moving into Ohio, much needed rain here. This low continues to expand its way toward New England. And then we're going to watch right over here in the Sierra Nevada, this system coming out. There it is. So ahead of it on Friday, way out ahead of it, storms. But the main system is here going through Idaho, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday. There could be quite a bit of scattered convection, scattered storms here, scattered storms in northern Wisconsin, scattered storms still running down the plains. All of that a part of this pattern. And then here's the lead wave as it ejects on Saturday, early Saturday morning. And it's big. That's a deep cyclone here. You can see the wind on the back, the heavy rains on the back side of this, and the severe weather ahead of it hitting the Red River Valley. Now we'll get all the way out to about midday Saturday, and this is when we're going to watch this corridor for the strong to severe storms. But the worry is this is going to leapfrog some critical areas here in the overnight hours, and that's why you see the latest data from the WPC showing lots and lots of rain here. And then we get into a hole once again, and then more storms showing up there. After that, wherever that ridge is, we're going to send ridge riders over the top of it, just like this. That's the thinking. So I want to show you the operational Euro, just so we can see the timing of this. So we've already watched out. Let's just play it out here to Saturday night. So this is when we're going to watch the strong to severe storms in this area. This is now to midnight. Could possibly get some of this moisture into eastern Iowa, desperately needed. But then we get into the overnight hours, and there's nothing. See how it falls apart early in the morning here? And then we get into Sunday afternoon and evening, and we're going to watch for these storms to pop again on the backside. The hope is that there is moisture still circulating around this to hit this very dry pocket into this area. But there'll be a big spot right in through here that will likely see limited chances for rainfall. Then that system moves into New England and it gets more organized, brings better precipitation all along the coast, and then we just wait for the next one. So there it shows up. This is next Thursday. And then as we go forward, notice it probably misses the same region again. And that's why when you just add up the total precip from the models, you see the attempt to fill in the holes in the middle just aren't there. And if we look at the change in model runs, so you take the 0Z, which is the latest, minus the 12Z, which was the previous, this is what you get. So wetter conditions here, drier there. Pause it and have a close look at your area. And then I'm going to show you what the GFS does. It's kind of the same story. So I took this out 10 days on the GFS, and we just struggle to get moisture into this region. So let's look at some probability maps. These look almost exactly the same as they have for the last 4 to 5 days. Wettest chances here. We've now backed off down in the southeast because the low is moving out, but we're looking wetter here. But in the middle, very low probability of grabbing an inch of rain. It's below 20%. So where is the drier region? This is now the chance of having less than a half inch. All I can say is that this has also gone down. So there are storms coming into this area, but I'm not optimistic overall on it fully breaking the drought in this region, or at least starting to cure that drought issue. There will be storms. Don't get me wrong. There'll be storms that roll through here, but it's not the widespread event that we kind of want. From there, I'm going to take you out and show you the pattern. I just want you to see where this is going to go. So we've talked already about that shortwave and the problems downstream. We then get to the next one. So this is now getting out there to Tuesday, Thursday. The entire time, this large ridge just stays in place here into Texas. And then we just watch it back up. But that's always what it does out there, day 10. That's a model, possibly a model inconsistency. It always backs this up. But if it does, we'll keep an eye on that 588 line right in through here, where we could possibly see a lot of ridge riding storms. But the heights are a bit too low to the north of it, and there's just no good subtropical flow punching through this to, I think, really bring sustained relief from the drought issues in these particular areas. So from there, let's go look at one last thing. Where's the Bermuda High? And then I'll show you week 2. As I play this out, you can see where it is. It's here, not here. And the Bermuda High is stronger than normal north, weaker than normal to the south, and that continues to be the issue plaguing this pattern. Finally, in fact, I want to show you one more thing here. National. Let's go to my national report. This is accessible at any time. And if we slide down here to the week 2 precipitation, do note that the models are picking up on the ridge riding storm events here. So you can kind of see it showing up there and here. But this, of course, is still capturing the wetter conditions in the upper Midwest and northern plains. My concern just remains, what do we possibly get into this area to kind of cure this? I was telling a colleague the other day, I think it's going to take 10 weeks where we would have possibly anywhere between 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches every single week in this area to ensure that there is not significant yield loss across these acres. That's what I'm watching most carefully. On the temperature side of it, here's today's highs. Getting into tomorrow and Friday. And Saturday, the heat just continues to pound Texas down here, but stretching up in the 90s as that saddle point in the trough pattern, the ridge builds in here. But this is where the trough comes in the parts of Montana. That's Sunday, getting into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. We got a good look at those temperatures. This is what we're seeing, though. This is Wednesday the 28th. See the heat building in this area? The CPC, I'm sorry about that. There we go. I'm just going to click on it. There we go. The CPC does show that looking out there from the 29th to the 2nd, we are watching for high risk of excessive heat here, moderate risk surrounding that, and then heat building into this area. So if we do not get moisture into this region, we're going to start to see significant problems as the heat probably builds in early parts of July. We can look at that by going to our 5-day sliding window of average temperature anomalies. So this is getting us out there to the end of June. So we're cool in this area at that point, cool back here. But then watch as we go out there, day 10 through 15, you start to see the heat rebuilding into this region. That's what we're going to watch for. Okay, one last thing. I haven't been covering international weather. There's been a lot to talk about in the U.S., but I want to point out a few things. Very warm in South America, very warm and very stormy throughout Europe. The coldest spot is here in this part of Russia. Look at the heat that is over here in the Manchurian plain, which is here, and the North China plain. And behind deep systems that keep rolling right down through here in Australia, we have got a lot of cold air in Western Australia. The precipitation side of it, again, just a lot of storms, a lot of severe weather in parts of Europe as well. Drier where they're harvesting down here in parts of South America, and very wet, which is which is uncharacteristic, abnormal for Australia when there's such an El Nino event going on right now. Take a look at this, though. Got to watch this area in China carefully. They continue to show a pretty strong dry signal going forward, and we're going to watch that and make sure we report on it in future reports. Thanks for giving me more time this morning. We'll talk again very soon.